When TLC 2019 was done on the WWE Network, you may have noticed that my dad, my wonderful Pops Goldberg, was the guest on Stone Cold Steve Austin's new podcast series. And if you watch the one with The Undertaker, you know this takes a little bit of a different tact. Austin just sits back, he opens a whole run, he's like, hey man, let's have a little chat about your career. And that's what they do. And everybody answers openly because everybody, is into Stone Cold Steve Austin. But in case you don't want to watch and you just want somebody to speed you up, let me, Goldberg's son, do that for you. It's 10 things we did learn when Goldberg appeared on Stone Cold's destined thing on the WWE Network. Number 10, he may have quit if it wasn't for the man named Sarge. If you have seen any footage or heard any stories about WCW's power plant, you will know about the man called Sarge who headed that place up. And well, he was a bit of a divisive figure. Some people loved him, some people hated him. I think Dave Bautista didn't really get on with him too well, but when it comes to Bill Goldberg, he gives all credit to that man. It all started after Bill had to retire from the NFL, and his accountant said to him, look man, if you want to go and make some money, you better go and find something to do and make some money. And after some to-ing and fro-ing, that of course was professional wrestling. But if it wasn't for Sarge, it does seem like Bill Goldberg may have given it up before he went on a winning streak of 1,478 matches. That may not be accurate. Also known as Buddy Lee Rogers, he basically took Goldberg under his wing and was like, look, I know you find some of this stuff easy because you've been doing 3-a-days in your National Football League career, but I promise you stick with me, I'll push you as hard as I can push you, and you will get to the top. Look, the man wasn't wrong, he was 100% correct. He basically went out of his way to make things harder for Bill, which is what Bill liked. And that is why when he did debut, honestly, about 6 months after he started training, everybody at the company went, I think we can do something with this guy. And the rest is history. Number 9, Goldberg still has his old WCW Training Tapes. Just to give you a mindset into Bill Goldberg, he openly told Stone Cold Steve Austin that he used to set a camera up by the side of the ring to record him train, and that he still has all those old tapes. Now, how WWE didn't ring him up straight afterwards, or hell, shout at him from behind the camera, excuse me, can we have those tapes and put them on the WWE Network? I don't know, but I, for one, would like to see them, even though, of course, I can just go into my family collection. I know where they are. He was, of course, trying to do this to get better, but after he had watched himself, he'd also put on something like UWF or Pancrase or some kind of MMA to try and think of a way, well, how can I be a pro wrestler that also has mixed martial arts skills? And if you don't know, Goldberg had already been training in that area, so he was ticking boxes left, right, and center. Of course, the trick here is trying to pull that off without hurting anybody, but he did shout out 2 particular people that helped him no end, Ronnie Rage and Kenny Chaos, which has to be the 2 most pro wrestling names you've ever heard in your damn life. They bumped around for him loads down in the power plant, and they never complained because they understood what their jobs were. And hell, I bet Goldberg's probably thrown him a bit of cash now. Without these 2 guys, who knows what would have happened. Number 8, Eric Bischoff told him, you ain't never climbing those ropes. After only his second match on Nitro 2, Bill Goldberg found himself at the end of the telling off stick by one Eric Bischoff. For you see, Goldberg had begun his streak, even though nobody knew at the time, and he had had what he would thought was quite a nice match with the Barbarian. And it was alright, but not according to the boss. For you see, to try and show off his athleticism, Goldberg had gone up the ropes and given the Barbarian a belly-to-belly from there to be like, hey, look, I know I'm a big jack dude, but I can do all of this stuff, expecting to get a round of applause from his peers. Instead, Eric Bischoff went up to him and said, listen, Bill, listen, Goldberg, or whatever the hell you want to be called, you never do that again. You're not a rope guy, you're not a high-flying guy. If you do, I will put my foot right up your ass. The last bit is a lie. In Goldberg's defense, he was just following the Barbarian's orders because, he was the more experienced of the 2, but still, that isn't why Bill Goldberg was brought in. Also, when you are up there, you're more likely to get injured. WCW didn't want that. Just think of these things going down. 2 matches in, you're a rookie, you're green, you're probably a bit intimidated, and you're being yelled at in front of everyone. Number 7, Bill Goldberg originally wanted to be called the Hybrid. Before his very first match in the late 90s, agent Jody Hamilton went up to Bill and said, Bill, hey, you're about to go out there. What do you want to be called? This isn't something that Goldberg had thought about, so he said, I've got it. Why don't you call me the Hybrid? Only to be told, no dude, we ain't gonna call you that. The main reason was because the powers that be didn't see how they were gonna license or merchandise that, and that news came as a surprise to Goldberg, as his response was, I ain't never going to sell any t-shirts or anything like that, because he wasn't thinking towards the future, where clearly Jody and his friends most definitely were. Do you know how many t-shirts Bill Goldberg went on to sell? The answer is a lot. As you probably figured out, the idea of the hybrid was that it was part pro wrestler and part MMA guy, so they came together to become the hybrid. I didn't need to say it twice, but I just wanted to run it into the ground. And it was damn sure better than what they came up with originally. Obviously with their backs against the wall, they just went, we'll call you Bill Gold, which sounds like a jobber from 1983, but thankfully when all was said and done, they're like, dude, your name is fine, go out there and be yourself. Before long, that had been shortened to just Goldberg, probably when Vince McMahon got on the phone and said, Eric, I've got a great idea. Let's try and kill first names in professional wrestling. Number 6, he wanted to put Bobby Eaton over. Goldberg is the first guy to admit that he didn't grow up being a passionate pro wrestling guy, and that even when he was in the business, he wouldn't necessarily say that he understood it from head to toe, which is why even when his undefeated streak had begun and he came up against Bobby Eaton, he put his hand up and said, hey, I'm all right to lose here, I really don't mind. So in short, Bill wanted to do the JOB for the long-time veteran because he thought he was saying something nice. He knew that Eaton had gone out of his way to help Bill Goldberg throughout his career, so now on somewhat of a stage, he could pay him back by losing to him in the middle of the ring. Goldberg admitted that now he realizes how dumb that was, but back then, it was just trying to be a nice guy. There's nothing wrong with being a nice guy. They were also in Bobby's hometown, so it seemed like he was about to light up the world. But WCW weren't having nothing. They were like, we're not pushing Bobby Eaton right now, Goldberg. We're pushing you. So get back into your corner, start like blowing smoke out of your nose, and go out there and just kick somebody's ass. He wanted to do this twice as well in November 1997 when the pair were working the house show scene. But again, management said, Bill, for goodness sake, do you not understand what we're trying to do with you? I imagine it was rather frustrating. Number 5, Bill Goldberg thinks that Scott Hall is a piece of shit. Look, if you tuned in to this latest podcast, show, network special, whatever you want to call it, hoping that Bill Goldberg was just gonna, fire at everyone and take shots at people so you can go, I'm gonna post this on Twitter and Reddit, you will have been disappointed. Mostly Goldberg is just a really nice guy, and he enjoys being a really nice guy. We've already talked about nice guys, so he doesn't want to bury anyone. But when it came to Scott Hall, my word, did he make an exception. After telling Austin earlier on in the podcast that those two never got along, from nowhere, later on in the show, he just went, oh, by the way, I think Scott Hall is a piece of shit. Now, for one reason, Steve Austin didn't jump on that. I would have been like, I'd like to know more about that. But it was surprising that WWE, they didn't edit this out. Don't forget, Scott Hall is a Hall of Famer. In April 2020, he's going back in with the NWO. The director, producer, whoever was like, nah, if Bill Goldberg thinks Scott Hall's a piece of shit, I want the world to know. To be fair, if you know anything about these two guys, you can probably figure it out. On the one hand, Scott Hall was known to be a ribber, a joker, and he enjoyed winding people up. And back then, Goldberg, without a doubt, did not enjoy being wound up. Push that together, and you have a powder keg. Number 4, Goldberg's wife thought he was Jeff Goldblum. In 2005, Goldberg was making his way into movies where he starred in the wonderful film known as Santa's Sleigh when he played Mr. Claus. On Wikipedia, it's described as a Christmas slasher comedy film, which I don't know about you, that instantly makes me want to go and watch it, because to date, I haven't seen it, but there's an even nicer story here, and that's because he met his wife on set as they were both filming. Wanda Farrington was working on the movie as a stunt double, and as soon as they started talking, they hit it off, clearly, because years later they got married. But the information that she had been given is that she'd been working with Jeff Goldblum. She didn't know who Bill Goldberg was, so I guess at one point went, oh, it's Jeff Goldblum. Definitely wasn't Jeff Goldblum, it was Bill Goldberg. But I can understand how you'd make that mistake. I mean, the amount of times I see George Clooney and go, oh, it's Aleister Black. Happens to me all the time. Obviously, she didn't actually think that Jeff Goldblum was Bill Goldberg, and after she found out that a switch had been changed, she actually described Billy Boy as one of those fake-ass wrestlers. I bet he loved that, but he managed to change her mind. That's what life is all about, educating the ignorant. Well done, Gold. Number 3, Stone Cold almost ran those ropes at WrestleMania 20. The WrestleMania 20 match between Bill Goldberg and Brock Lesnar is one of the worst you're ever likely to see. The fans turned on it because they knew both guys were about to leave. Stone Cold Steve Austin was a special guest referee and spent most of it going, this is awkward. There's even stories of Shane McMahon being in the crowd, booing away because he was upset about all this too. Even though Austin was laughing away, he realized how bad this situation was. So at one point he thought, maybe if I start running the ropes, it will give the audience something to cheer and we can get out of this pressure cooker. He decided against it, which I think in hindsight was probably the best thing he could have done. But you know where he got that idea, just trying to tie everything up? That's right, from Bobby Eaton down in WCW. So everything is connected. Honestly though, I don't think that would have worked because everybody was so riled up. If Austin had started doing that, they probably would have been confused and maybe even misconstrued it as him trying to take the mick out of them. I mean, he would have got away with it because it's the rattlesnake and that's just what happens. But yeah, bad match. Austin tried to save, decided against it, probably correct. Number 2, Goldberg found out about his world title win he was watching Thunder at home. On the 2nd of July 1998, Bill Goldberg was at home watching Thunder like a lot of us used to do. It was different a couple of years later, but let's not worry about that. And when he was doing this, he heard Tony Schiavone say that at the Georgia Dome for WCW Nitro it was going to be Hollywood Hulk Hogan taking on Bill Goldberg for the world title. And he looked around like, wait, what? That's happened, what? He checked his phone, there was no messages, so he found out like we all did. So 4 days before the biggest match of his career and before he became world champion for the first time, Goldberg had no clue what was going on. He also made a quip here, but it probably was because Eric Bischoff was involved and while he was head of creative, he didn't really have much say-so. But you should probably watch that for yourself and make up your own mind. He didn't find out all the details until he landed at the Georgia Dome on that Monday, and isn't that just a kick in the teeth? That's like me telling you now, I'm just gonna make up a name, but like, Luke Window, you're gonna go to America tomorrow and you're gonna become a wrestler. Luke Window be like, what are you talking about? I don't even know what's going on. It's not the same at all, but you take my point. Just think of that though, Bill Goldberg in that match in front of what, 45,000 people? It's crazy. Go watch it now. The atmosphere is electric. He was just chilling at home watching Thunder. Probably the highlight of that show. Number 1, the legend of Hulk Hogan's Icy Hot. This one is the absolute best. As you can imagine, before that bout, Bill Goldberg was quite excited, not only because of the magnitude of the situation of the day, but he was about to wrestle a match with Hulk Hogan. However, all that excitement then faded away when Bill got in the ring with Hulk, realized that he had used way too much Icy Hot and he could barely see. Now, I've been in the wrestling ring. I know what happens. I've also been that guy. If you put too much of that stuff on yourself, it is absolutely blinding because the fumes coming off you, tell you, I did it once so bad during the match, people in the crowd actually started to chant Deep Heat because it smells a lot like Deep Heat. Even better here though is that Hogan had smothered it all over his shoulders, so when Goldberg took him into the headlock and his face kind of rubbed against it, it got in his eyes, it started to burn, and he was like, oh no, what the hell am I gonna do? After that, his eyes started to stream because that does happen when you do irritate your eyeballs. So which is why when you watch it back, you may be like, oh, Bill Goldberg, he's crying, so happy that he won the world title. Nope, just got icy hot in there. Some wrestling conspiracists now say that Hogan only did this because he was trying to throw Bill Goldberg off his game, but there are far easier ways to do that. Also, loads of wrestlers do this. Loads of them, they absolutely love icy hot. Who knows why? Even though I kind of love it too. Yeah, there you go. During his biggest moment of his career, Bill Goldberg's eyes were watering like he was chopping onions because of Hulk Hogan's Icy Hot. Kayfabe news headlines. And that's that. I will say it was a really good show so far. This new series of Stone Cold podcasts are great. The Undertaker one smashed it, and so did this. But again, if you don't want to watch it, hopefully we have now caught you up. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about the show. If you did see it, like, share, and subscribe. Head over to WhatCulture.com, read yourself some articles, follow WhatCulture on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. Watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon Miller. No idea why I just talk like a vampire. I'm a weird guy and I'm having a weird day, but I hope you have a great Monday or whatever day you're watching this on, and I'll see you soon.